In this tutorial series, you will learn how to build a complete application from scratch using Spring Boot and Angular. We are going to build a video streaming application like YouTube. Of course, we're not going to build the complete clone of YouTube, but only a minimal set of functionality which are common for video streaming applications like YouTube. The best way to follow these tutorials is to code along with me. In that way, you can really practice whatever concepts you are learning by watching this tutorial. To be able to follow along with this tutorial, you need to have a basic understanding of Java, Spring Boot and Angular. If you're completely new to any of these technologies, then this course is not for you. We're also going to use AWS S3 to store our media content. And if you want to check out the source code as well as written version of this tutorial or any of the code snippets, check out the blog article in the description section of this video. And lastly, if you're interested in the full stack projects like this using Spring Boot and Angular, you can check out my other project-oriented tutorials in this channel. You can find the link to the playlist in the description section. So without any further delay, let's start the video. So the first step we are going to follow in this tutorial is to define the functional requirements of this application we are going to build. These are the requirements that are essential for any project to analyze before starting the development or technical design of the project. So here are some functional requirements for our application. So the first one is a user can upload new videos to our application, and he or she can also upload thumbnails for the videos, can view the videos, can like or dislike a particular video, and can subscribe to other user to receive updates about the future videos, and can log in, log out using single sign-on, and users can comment on videos and can view the history of the videos, and lastly can also view the list of liked videos of the particular user. So now let's see a small demo of how the application will look like. So this is how the homepage of the application looks like. So you can see a list of featured videos on this page. Of course, we only have 2 videos as of now, but once I upload more videos, you can see more and more of them. And on top of them, we have the header bar with the title to the left side called YouTube clone, and to the right side we have the login button. If I click on login, you will be redirected to Auth0 website, which is an external authorization server. So we are going to use Auth2 features of Spring Security to implement user authorization. So now on the login page, you can either register with your email and password, or you can directly log in using your Google account. I'm going to use my existing Google account to log in into the application, and now I'm able to see the option to upload a video with a video icon. So if I click on that video icon, the page redirects to an upload video page. This is not so pretty, but hey, we are not going to focus on the design part of it, but only the functionality of the application. So bear with the bad design of this application. So now here we have the drag and drop component to upload the video. So I'm going to quickly drop a video here and click on button upload. So now the app will make a call to the Spring Boot backend, and the backend will upload this video to AWS S3. Once the upload is completed, you will be redirected to the save video details page, where you can see the video you just uploaded and you can type in some metadata about the video. So in here I'm going to provide some random title for the video, followed by the description of the video status. So when I upload a video, I can choose to mark it as public, private or unlisted. So for now, let's select public, and we can also upload an image to be shown as the thumbnail for this video. So let me select a random thumbnail also, a random image. And after I selected the image, let's click on upload. So the thumbnail will also be uploaded to AWS S3 from our backend application. And lastly, I'm also going to provide some tags for this video. So let me add some random tags here. And notice that you can actually see that each tag is shown as a chip component, very similar to how you see in YouTube. So now if I click on save, you can see a cool snack bar menu with the details that the video is saved. So these are the components which we are using from the library called Angular Material, and also the link where you can watch this video. So if I click on it, you will be taken to the video detail page, where you can watch the actual video similar to YouTube. And here we have the option to subscribe for the user of the video, like or dislike the video, add comments to the video, and browse through the suggested videos section. So if you go to the home page of the application, you can also view the history of the you can view the like history of the user followed by the watch history. So notice that some of the functionalities are not fully developed. Of course, we are going to build this together. This is not yet a completed project. We will complete this project by the end of the course. So this is a quick demo of the application. Hope you're excited to code along with me. I'm also excited to complete the course as soon as possible. I will try to make the video duration larger so that I cover as much as content possible with each video. So now let's go ahead and discuss the application architecture. So in the previous section, we already covered the functional requirements of the application we are going to build. Now let's go ahead and have a look at the architecture of the application. So we are going to follow a 3-tier architecture where we have a client application, that is the front end, which will be developed using Angular. The backend application will be running on an embedded Tomcat server, will be developed using Spring Boot. So the Angular application will communicate with the Spring Boot server using the REST API over HTTP. And the database we are going to use is going to be MongoDB. So why MongoDB? So there is no special reason for it. I already created a couple of full stack tutorials using MySQL relational database. So my plan is to cover also the non-relational database concepts too. So that's the only reason for choosing it. But in a real world project, picking the database would be a more thoughtful exercise. So you have to think about the kind of data you will be working with as part of the application and the project, and we should pick the database based on that. Alright, as this is a video streaming application, we are going to host video files as well as image files, which are going to be thumbnails uploaded by the user. So instead of hosting them on our machine, we can host them on a remote object server like AWS S3. So in this way, we don't need to think about the storage of the files and how to store those files and how to render them and etc. So we can just simply focus on implementing the main functional requirements and business logic of the application. So we are also going to outsource the authentication and authorization part in our application by using an external authorization server like Auth0. So you can certainly use also other authorization servers like AWS Cognito, Microsoft Azure AD, and Okta, which is a parent company of Auth0. So you can also maintain your own authorization server by using a software like Keycloak. So if you want to learn how to implement authentication and authorization using Spring Boot and Keycloak, I can recommend you one of my tutorials, Spring Boot OAuth 2 with Keycloak course. It's a 90-minute course where you can learn about OAuth 2 and how to implement OAuth 2 patterns in Spring Boot using Keycloak authorization server. So going back to our architecture diagram, so if we zoom in a bit into the individual components, we have our front-end client where we are going to implement a component-oriented architecture, which means we will try to divide each meaningful element on the screen into a component. And in that way, we can reuse those components across different places. Coming to the backend architecture, we are going to follow a standard 3-layer architecture. We are going to expose the REST API and maintain it in a presentation or controller layer. So this layer will only deal with receiving REST calls from the client, validating whether the requests are valid or not, and then delegating the request to the service layer. The service layer will perform the actual business logic of our application. So it is the core of our application. So this layer will not deal with storing or persisting of the data. So this will be the responsibility of the persistence layer. The persistence layer is responsible to make sure that the objects are stored properly in the database, and it will not deal with any kinds of business logic. So you can observe that each layer has a set of responsibilities, and we are not going to mix the responsibilities between each layers. So by following this kind of layered architecture approach, we can keep the code clean and maintainable. Okay, now it's time to start developing the project. So to create the project, I'm going to open the website start.spring.io. So this is the place where we can generate our starter project. So in here, I'm going to select the default values here. I'm just going to leave the default values. We are going to generate a Maven project in Java using the version 2.5.2. As of creating this video, the latest version is 2.5.2. So when you are watching this video, it may have been changed. So for the group ID, I'm going to provide the value com.programming.techie. You can provide any value like. So the artifact ID, you can provide it as YouTube clone, and that's it. So we are going to select the packaging as jar, and I'm going to select Java 16. This is the latest Java version which is available. You can also select either Java 11 or Java 8. So coming to the next step, we have to add the dependencies for our project. So I'm going to click on add dependencies, and first of all I'm going to add the dependency of Spring Web, followed by the dependency of Spring Data MongoDB, as we are dealing with the MongoDB database. I'm going to select the Spring Data MongoDB but not the Spring Data React to MongoDB dependency. Just make sure you select this one. And the next one is going to be Lombok. So we are going to use Lombok library to reduce the boilerplate code we have to write. And so yeah, that's it for now. So we will be adding some other dependencies to connect with AWS and also to enable the Spring security later in the later parts of the video. Once I click on generate, the project will be downloaded to your machine. So I'm going to click on save. So once you have downloaded the project to your machine, you just have to extract the zip file into a folder. So you can see the YouTube clone zip. I've extracted it to the YouTube clone folder, and if you double click, and you can see the pom.xml and the source folder and the .maven folder. It's downloaded without any problems. So the next step is to open this project inside your IDE, inside your favorite IDE. I'm going to use IntelliJ IDEA. You can use any IDE you like, Eclipse, Spring Toolsuite, or VS Code, anything you like. The process of development will not differ. So I've opened the IntelliJ IDEA, and in here I'm going to click on the button open, and here I'm going to go to the location where I've downloaded the project. So it's going to be YouTube clone, and make sure you select the pom.xml and click on OK. Now it will ask whether you want to open this project. I'm going to click on open as project. Yes, I trust this project. Okay, now the project is opened in IntelliJ, so you can see that it's starting to index the project, and make sure that you have installed the Java 16 version if you have selected Java 16, and whatever Java version you have, make sure that you have installed it and configured it in the IDE. And let's have a look at the project structure here. So under the YouTube clone folder, we have the source folder, and inside we have main and test folders. So under that we have the Java folder, and we have this YouTube clone application class. So this is the main class of our Spring Boot application, and under the resources we have the application.properties file. So this is the place where we can configure the properties and all the configuration which we need. And we also have this pom.xml where all the dependency information is maintained for our project. So here you can see that we have added the dependency for Spring Data MongoDB, dependency for Spring MVC. So these are the starter dependencies which will enable the libraries in our project. So we also have the dependency for Lombok, which will enable us to write less boilerplate code. So yeah, that's it. So this is the main pom.xml and the initial project which will be generated for us. So now let's go ahead and generate also the frontend project, the Angular project in our application. Alright, so now before we generate the Angular project, so let's just discuss how we are going to structure our source code. So we have this YouTube clone project, a single module, and we are going to develop the project using a multi-module approach. That is, we are going to maintain two modules, one for the backend code and another for the front-end code. So Maven provides us the option to modularize our code into different pieces, so which will help us to maintain each area of our code base as independent projects. So our Spring Boot project will be a different one Maven project, and our Angular project is going to be another Maven project. So if you want to know how Maven works and how also the multi-module system in Maven works, check out my YouTube tutorial check out the video tutorial from my YouTube channel. I'm going to link this in the description section. So let's go ahead and create these two new modules in our existing project. But I'm going to right click on the root project, the YouTube clone project, and click on new and module. It will open a new pop-up called as new module. Make sure you selected the Maven option and click on next. And I'm going to provide the name of the module as backend. And if you just expand the artifact coordinates, you can see the same group ID we have created before, com programming techie, and the artifact ID now will be backend. So just click on finish. So what it will do is it will create a new module called as backend, And yeah, if you open the pom.xml, the root pom.xml, you can see that IntelliJ has added the modules section here and also defined the backend as one of the Maven module. So now it's time to create the module also for the front-end code. So for that, I'm going to follow the similar process as before. I'm going to right click on the YouTube clone project and click on new module. Click on next inside the Maven module pop-up. And now I'm going to name this module as front-end. And the same thing, the group ID will be com programming techie and the artifact ID is going to be front-end. And I'm going to click on finish. So you can see that we also have the front-end module, which is now created in our YouTube clone project. And the next thing we are going to do is you can observe that we still have this source folder, which is generated from our from Spring Initializer project. And what we are going to do is I'm going to move this source folder one level down into the backend project. So if I expand the backend project, you can see that we already have the source and source folder. What I'm going to do is I'm going to delete these two folders, source and target, and delete. So I'm just going to move this source folder one level down. So I'm going to move it into the backend folder. So IntelliJ is going to ask me for the confirmation. Yes, I want to move this folder. And yeah, it looks like it's working now. What's going to happen is now inside the backend folder, we have the source code for the Spring Boot application, but inside the pom.xml, we don't have any dependencies. Why? Because all the dependencies are stored inside the pom.xml of the YouTube clone under the YouTube clone project. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy all this information inside the XML file. So right from the group ID, not the parent tag. I'm going to leave the parent tag as it is, but I'm going to copy everything right from the group ID, and I'm going to scroll down and until the build sections. I'm going to copy them, I'm going to cut them, and I'm going to paste it inside the pom.xml of the backend project. So back into the pom.xml, and here I'm going to copy the properties. I'm just going to paste it. Let's see what it says. So yeah, we should not copy the group ID and artifact ID. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave the group ID and artifact ID version and the name tags in the top level. So I'm just going to copy this back into the root project. Yeah, this makes sense, right? Because the Maven module, the root Maven module should have the group ID, artifact ID, and all the dep, but our backend module already have this information like the artifact ID, and the only thing we need are the dependencies and the Maven plugin, which is used to build the jar file of our project. So let's click on this Maven icon to the top right side corner. Okay, so everything looks fine. So now just quickly test this whether it's working fine or not. I'm going to open the Maven tab to the right side of the IntelliJ IDEA and click on the M button here, so which will execute the Maven goal. And in here I'm going to type the command maven clean verify. So you need not do this one. You can just open a terminal window and type the command maven clean verify inside the YouTube clone project. You can also do that. So once I run the maven clean verify, you should see that the project should be built without any issues. So you can see that it mainly detected 3 projects: the YouTube clone, this is the root project, the backend, and the front-end project, and the build is success. So now you may have observed that the pom.xml, there is just a strike true on the pom.xml. This is because for some reason IntelliJ has ignored the Maven projects we just created. So if you just open the Maven tab to the right side, you see that the backend and the front-end modules are grayed out. So you can just unignore them by just right-clicking on the Maven module and click on unignore projects. So once you click on that section, if you just click on the refresh button, you can see that the strike through is gone now. We go ahead and run our backend application. I'm just going to add another small plugin configuration to our backend project. So I'm going to scroll down to the plugin section, and in here I'm going to add a compiler plugin to the backend module, because IntelliJ may have problems running the YouTube clone, our main class, when we just moved these classes around into the backend project. So just in case, just to be sure, that I'm going to add another plugin. So I'm just going to go inside the plugin section, and there I'm going to type in plugin, and I'm going to type in group ID, and the group ID is going to be org.apache.maven.plugins, and the artifact ID is going to be a compiler plugin. So I'm going to type in Maven compiler plugin, and the version as of now is 3.8.1, so I'm going to select the same version. And inside the configuration, I'm going to provide the target JDK version. For that, I'm going to use the configuration tag, and inside that I'm going to add the source as 16, because as we are using Java 16, and also target as 16. So once you did that, just click on the Maven icon on the top right side corner, and now we are ready to run our YouTube clone application, the main class. So I'm going to open the YouTube clone application, click on the green button to the left side, and click on debug YouTube clone application. So now the application should start up without any problems. So now you can see that the application is started in 1.7 seconds at port 8080. Right, so now let's continue and create the front-end project. So we went on a bit of tangent there. So the first thing I'm going to do is to make sure that we have installed Angular CLI. So for that, I'm going to open Google and type Angular CLI download. And you can just click on this first link, CLI overview and command reference from the angular.io website. And in here you can see that we have some documentation on how to install Angular CLI. You can just run the command npm install -g Angular CLI. So this will make sure that the Angular CLI is downloaded globally in your machine. I've already installed the Angular CLI, so I'm not going to demonstrate how to do that. So let's go ahead and create the project directly. So for that, I'm going to open the terminal, and we have to go inside the front-end module, because we have created the front-end module for the front-end code. So I'm going to type in cd front-end, and in there I'm going to type the command ng new YouTube clone UI hyphen directory. So this will make sure that it will create a new directory called YouTube clone UI, and it will create the project. So the first thing, it's going to ask whether we want to add Angular routing or not. So yes, we need Angular routing, and we are going to just use CSS. And after you click on enter, then it will start to create the packages, like the create the files, and then we'll start installing all the npm packages we need for our application. So you can see that the npm install has failed. So what I'm going to do now is this, because we are not inside the YouTube clone UI package. So what I'm going to do now is going to go cd into the YouTube clone UI folder. So cd YouTube clone UI, and in there I'm going to run npm install. So this should now recognize the package.json file, and the npm install should work fine. So as you can see, it's working fine. Now we can start the application by typing npm start. So it will first start the ngserve command internally, and it should start the application soon at port 4200. So if I click on this localhost 4200 link, you can see that it's opening the home page of the Angular application. So everything is installed perfectly. So now let's go to the next step. So the next step is to install Angular material in our Angular project. So for that, I'm going to open a new terminal, and in there make sure you are under the YouTube clone, you are under the front-end project. So I'm going to cd into front-end and YouTube clone UI, and in there I'm going to type the command ng add Angular material. So this will add the Angular material library to our project. So after you type in the command, it will ask for some questions. So of course I would like to proceed, and now it's installing the package, and it will ask for some So it will ask you to choose a pre-built theme name. So I'm going to choose the theme Deep Purple and Amber. So you're free to choose any option you like. And this will ask some follow-up questions. So I'm going to set up the global Angular material typography styles, yes, and also set up the browser animations for Angular material, yes. And after adding all these, selecting all these options, it will install the package in our project. So we have our Angular project up and running, and also the Spring Boot project up and running. But as of now, to build the Angular project, we have to use the Angular CLI. So we can only build the project using the ng build command. So if I type ng build, it will start building the Angular application. But what we want to do is to use Maven to build also the front-end project. So for that, I'm going to use a plugin called as Frontend Maven plugin. So I'm going to first open the pom.xml here, and in here we have to configure the Maven frontend plugin. So we can do that by copying the pom.xml from the written tutorial. So you can find the written tutorial in the description section of the video, and if you scroll down to the build Angular project using Maven section, you can find the pom.xml here. So I'm just going to copy the whole build section and paste it inside the pom.xml of the front-end project, and make sure to click on the Maven icon to the top right side corner. So let's see what is inside this plugin configuration. So first of all, we have the Maven front-end Maven plugin. We have defined the front-end Maven plugin, and in there we have some execution configuration where it's going to install Node and npm, because as we are using npm as the package manager for our Angular application, this plugin will first install Node and npm into our project, and after that it will run the npm install command followed by the npm build command. So this npm build command is tied to the phase of generate resources. So this generate resources will usually run at the time of Maven compile. So this will make sure that the Angular project is also built at the time of running the Maven project. So we also have another configuration, the node version and node download route. So what it will do is it will download the node version, whatever node version you have defined here. We will download it at the time of building the Angular project from the download route URL which we have provided here. So whenever you run the ng-build command, it will basically create some distribution folder where it will contain all the build files. So these will be usually the minified JavaScript files and the CSS and the HTML files. So these files should be stored in a separate folder. We can specify under which folder Maven should store these files by configuring it under the resources section. So we have configured a resource called as dist meta-inf and resources. So is Maven is triggering the ng build command, it will store all the build files which are generated as part of the ng build command under this folder. So now let's test whether this front-end Maven plugin is able to build our Angular project or not. So for that, the first thing we are going to do is to remove this source folder. We don't need this anymore under the front-end module. So I'm going to delete this folder. And if you observe, we have the pom.xml under the front-end project, but we have actually the package.json under the YouTube clone UI directory. So what we can do is we can add a configuration under the front-end Maven plugin configuration tag, the working directory as YouTube clone UI. So as the package.json is under the YouTube clone UI folder, we have to mention the working directory as that folder name, or else the npm install command will not work because Maven will not find the package.json file. So I'm just going to again click on the Maven icon to the top right side corner. So you have to click that because we have to force Maven to download the Maven dependencies whenever we have changed something in the pom.xml. So alright, so I'm going to click on the Maven section to the right side. I'm going to click on the M button and run the Maven clean verify command. So what this will do is now it will build the backend as well as the front end project. And you can see that it's installing Node version 14.17.3. It installed load locally, and now it's running npm install. So this is mainly useful when you're running the project in a CI environment. So in a CI environment like Jenkins, or if you're using GitHub Actions, so there is usually they won't provide us the node and npm installations if it will work in your local. But on a CI environment, it won't work. So for this reason, we want to start building the project like a clean slate. So we will download everything which is required and we will build the project in the CI server. So let's see whether the build is successful or not. You can see that the ng build command is also running now. It's compiling the Angular project. So shortly it should complete building the Angular project also, and the build should also be successful. As you can see, the front-end module took 58 seconds and the back-end module took 9 seconds. And if you just scroll up, you can see that a jar was created, and you can find the jar under the front-end target folder. Okay, so before we start the development of our project, the last thing we need to do is to download MongoDB, the database MongoDB, to our machine. For that, you can open a browser window and type download MongoDB. And in here, select the first link here, the MongoDB community download, and make sure you download the community server. So just select whatever platform you would like to install against and just click on the download. And after that, what you need is like a GUI where you can manage the MongoDB. So for that, we can download MongoDB Compass. So this is a MongoDB GUI provided by the MongoDB itself. So this is also a good software where you can manage the MongoDB through a graphical user interface. So I'm also going to click on download, and as I've already installed these softwares, I'm not going to walk you through this, and you can just download and install them. So we will go to the next step. So once you have downloaded and installed MongoDB on your local machine, so the next step is to configure the MongoDB properties inside our Spring Boot project. For that, I'm going to open the application.properties file under the backend folder. I'm going to source main resources application.properties. So under this file, I'm going to type in the properties of MongoDB. So for that, I can type spring.data.mongodb.host equals localhost, and spring.data.mongodb.port is equal to 27017. So this is the default port where MongoDB is usually running, and the next one is going to be the name of the database schema we are going to create. So for that, I'm going to type in spring.data.mongodb.database equals YouTube-clone. So it's just enough to add these three properties when we are running the database, when you want to connect the database which is running on your local machine. But if you want to connect to an external database, you have to add some other properties like the username and password. So next we are going to check what is the MongoDB schema which we'll be working with in our application. So alright guys, that's it for this video. In the next part, we will start the actual development of the backend project, and I will see you in that next video. Until then, happy coding, techies.